jump to that.
Oh, yeah.
And we just want to be free. We want to be free to ride our machines. We just want to be left alone. We want to party. We don't stay inside because of rain. We don't stay at home because it's cold. We don't even like to park our bikes. We ride. This is our biker's lifestyle.
I'm sitting here with Dutch Van Alstin. He's an author of a series of books called Life Behind Bars.
Yes.
Wearing the shirt that I can see right there. Demons
Rising is the first book.
is the first book, and the second one?
The second one is called Rebellious Youth, the story of the lost child.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is called Black River, the story of the broken comedian.
Okay.
And I got a fourth one coming out. It's going to be from the ladies' perspective, a women's motorcycle club. We're calling that one The Righteous Raven, story of the roaming gypsy.
Okay. Now, are these books, are they based on people you know, you've met, life experiences?
I'd say life experiences morphed into fiction. I mean, there's a couple of characters that I based them on people I actually knew. Earlier, before we got on the camera, I was telling you about a friend of mine who, there's a character named Mallet in the book who he's based on, just because his colorful nature and his solid reputation. I just gave him a different name, and it's definitely the character with my brother Mickey. But everybody else is primarily fictitious. The character of Digger Garcia, the first book. Oh God, I love that sound.
The music of our people.
Yes, music of our people. Omaha. But I've had a couple of women actually contact me and say, "Is this person real?" Because I really want to meet him. One woman said, "You know, I just want you to know I wouldn't kick Digger out of bed for eating breakfast." Like, I gotta disappoint you, but you know, are you Digger? No, I'm not. You know, I am. Digger is the all-American boy that everybody wants to be.
Now, the books, the protagonists, as it were, are they all one percenters?
Yes.
So, now you were in a club.
Yes.
Many years ago. We're both older now.
Oh, we're both very old. Yes.
I don't know about very old, but
I feel it today.
Yeah, some days. But you were in a club. It was in upstate New York.
Upstate New York.
Do you mind talking about that?
I can talk a little bit about it, sure. I was in actually two clubs. The second club's not real thrilled about this at all. I kept their name out as much as I can, but in the first book I did dedicate the book to who was the president at the time, who was kind of my mentor at that time, and I used their name, and so I mean, they've been okay. But I actually started back in the 80s with a club called the Northern Riders out of Corning, New York. They were formed by a man named Loser, of all people, who was one of the founders of the Renegades years ago. And he founded a club called the Southern Riders in Richmond, Virginia. And then Kenny Hotel, who was lifetime in the Navy, just got out, and longtime biker, was friends with him, and they took the club up north into Corning, started the Northern Riders. They just turned the flags around on the emblem, and off we went. It's been a love affair ever since. Later on down the years, I switched over to a club called New Breed, just because the Northern Riders and I weren't quite seeing eye to eye on what direction they wanted to go. They wanted to stay mainly local. They wanted to stay out of what they called politics, which really meant they wanted to stay out of the Rochester area clubs. And you really can't be a good, legitimate club with earned respect if you don't get involved in that hub up in Rochester. They just didn't want anything to do with that. They're actually now defunct. There's another chapter still in, it's a little town in Pennsylvania, south of Pittsburgh, Union City. That chapter's still active.
Right.
So, and in 2011, I turned in my colors and moved here. We don't have a chapter down here, so I'm out. I'm out in good standing, got my tattoo with my out date, and I don't think I'll ever do that again, though. I really don't. I kind of flirted with the idea down here a couple times, but I fell in love with my bike when I got down here. It was so nice to just get up on a Saturday and think, I'm just going to go out and ride inland, and I ended up going across the coast, across 70, and into, what the hell is this? Right on 70. Not Vero Beach, but...
Which one? Oh, on the other side?
Yeah, on the other side.
The other side is Fort Pierce.
Fort Pierce, that's right, yeah. I just kept seeing that sign of Okeechobee, and that Fort Pierce was getting closer. And it just hit me. I thought, I couldn't do this if I was still in the club.
Why not?
What if we had something to do that day? There was always something to do.
There is always something to do.
There is always something to do, always. You know, it just felt so almost liberating. I could just go where I want today. You know, I didn't have that responsibility, and I miss that. I do. Because I hung around with a lot of guys down here who were hanging around with Sons of Silence, things like that. I rode around with them, and that still felt good. I still remember that feeling, you know, being in that pack and all that. And every now and then I think, God, I do miss that. I really do.
All right, so 1980s, early 80s. What was your first bike?
My first bike was a Sportster.
Okay.
Back when they used to carry around spark plugs, just because.
AMF days.
Oh my God! Well, yeah, and so it's the Ironhead. But it just blew plugs so bad. It was just not uncommon at all to blue plug. Anybody got sporty?
Yeah.
Got some plugs? You know.
I had a 79 Ironhead for a while. I fought that fucker on every turn.
Oh my God, it was such a challenge to get it.
All right, so you're on a Sportster, you're tooling around, you're in the Rochester scene, and how do you get involved in the clubs?
Back then?
Yeah.
You just grab somebody you knew and...
How did you?
Oh, how did I?
Yeah.
Actually, a guy named Jeff Hamilton had a patch on one day, and I knew him, and I just said, tell me, explain it to me, what's going on with it? And, why don't you come to a meeting and see if you like it? And he goes, I can't really explain it in words. See if you like it. You come to a meeting, I'll introduce you, and it just morphed into I just felt so comfortable, so like this is where I belong. I think one thing about people who get involved in this lifestyle, at least if you do it for the right reason, is you really are kind of missing that family component growing up. At least that's always been my thing. You don't feel like you really belong here, you don't feel like you belong there. That's one of my little symbolic tattoos that I've always done. The green zero doesn't fit in over here, doesn't fit in over there, keeps everything off balance. That's just kind of how I felt all my life. When I got there, you're accepted. Like true brotherhood.
So was there a hang-around period?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A hang-around period. There was like two levels of a hang-around period. One is where you're just hanging around. You're really not considered a hang-around. It's like going from a verb to a noun. You're just hanging around, you get to know everybody. Then it's okay. You're kind of an official hang-around. You really don't know anything different, but now you're an official hang-around. Now you have major interest known that this is what you want to do, and they have at least gave you first indication, okay, we'll take a look at it. Okay. And the hang-around period varies from club to club, and then there became the prospect time, which was the bottom rocker.
What about your hang-around period?
The hang-around period didn't last too long. It was only about 2 months.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, and then the prospect time at that time was between 6 months and a year. I did 9 months, which was about average. And it's the worst time in your life that you'll always fondly remember.
Why is that?
It just all. I look back at just the prospect was. Among the fact that you are a prospect to learn the way of the road, learn the way of the life, and all that kind of stuff, you are, on a side note, the duty-oriented person, and that's what you do. You work the bar, you clean the clubhouse, you set up the tents on the outings, and it's just, I can remember one time in Union City when I was prospecting, it was just like the worst of the worst. It was pouring rain, it was cold, we were on a slanted hill, and I had to set up everybody's tent because it was just me and another prospect who also had an Ironhead, and on the way out there, his broke down. So by the time I got to Union City, I was the only prospect there for 2 clubs. I mean, 2 chapters. Our chapter, the Union City chapter, and then the Southern Riders came up from Virginia. I was all alone. I set up every single tent there. And back then, of course, there was no cell phones. There was no And I remember one guy from the Southern Riders came up and put a flashlight on a rope around my neck and said, "Here, leave that on. I want to know where you're at all times." They would just yell, "Flashback! Beat up again."
Yeah.
Go grab a beer. You know, setting up everybody's tent. And in the morning, they all rained, and most of them got washed away. And one guy who woke up and had a blow up down his tent. I still remember that. And instead of being embarrassed, one of the podcasts I did, I mentioned the story. It was always funny. Instead of being embarrassed, he actually embraced it. Brought her to breakfast, feeding her at the table, and things like that. But it was just a great weekend. But at that time, it was just pure hell. I remember just doing. I got no sleep, dirty, muddy, and then when I got home, I'm thinking, God, that was fun. It really was. You look back on those times with fondness, but I don't think I would ever do that again either.
Well, not at your age at this point in time, at least.
Not at my, I see, but this seems to be the trend of clubs where, I mean, when I was younger, I was about average age in my 20s. I think now, if you look at a lot of these clubs, the average age is probably around me, maybe a little bit younger. But there's not a lot of young people going into good, solid clubs anymore. They are going into more the theme clubs and things like that, and that's all well and good if that's what they want to do.
What's a theme club?
Oh, like a religious-based club, or just strictly a military club, or union-only club, and things like that. We had a kid one time. When I was with Newbury, we were out with a club called Excalibur, and I think the Iron Horsemen were there. And we were all just kind of hanging around, sitting there talking, drinking beer. Good kid came up. We started talking to one of the guys from Excalibur. What do I got to do to join? What do I got to do? And the guy's name is Gray. Good old guy, really. And he explained it very carefully in a lot of detail. You got to do this, you got to do that. There's a way over here. And the kid kind of looks. He goes, "Yeah, I think I'm just going to go join one of those military clubs." And I thought, there's the problem right there. I mean, again, good kid. I'm nothing against him, but it's like, yeah, it's too much effort. I just want the patch and the girls and the status. I don't really want it to mean anything. It just hit me that day. I figured, man, this is just really a problem because I had a prediction that I think in about 20 years you're going to see the old 1% clubs are still going to be standing, but I don't think you're going to see any of the other clubs that aren't just like theme-based anymore. There's just not that middle road anymore where people are willing to put that time and effort in.
Now, your club, the first club that you were in, you guys were how many patches in the back?
Three.
It's a three-piece patch.
And that caused a lot of trouble when we first started because that was one of the issues was they didn't really, back then you were supposed to be involved with a coalition and go present yourself, and they didn't. They felt, and I still think they were right to this day, they felt they were already established. They just started a different chapter. They shouldn't have to go hat in hand saying we're going to start a chapter. That caused a lot of trouble back then.
So they didn't go through channels, protocol?
No, he didn't. And it finally wiggled its way through, but I remember our president came to the hotel and got the shit kicked out. I can say that.
Of course.
Good. We got the shit kicked out of one day from a club in Bath, which was down defunct. Bath is a town, by the way, Bath.
Yeah.
Called the Snakes, and they just Kenny, I love Kenny, I really do. He's still alive, but he fell for the bait. He thought he knew a guy named Danny, who was the founder of the President's Club. You and I sit down and talk. Just you and I, Mono, and he fell for it. He just jumped the shit out. And that was the talk. So it was a lot of trouble back then. It was worth it. And as a young 20-year-old, not too bright, it was exciting. I liked it. You got me waxing nostalgic now.
Well, that was the idea. I'm curious as to, how you, gained the experience to write the books. And I was just trying to see the origins of it. So,
yeah.
It's always good to hear about those things.
It comes from two perspectives. One is I've always liked to write. Since I was 9, I used to write short stories when I was a kid about them. But yeah, and this I just wanted to kind of tell a different story of, because we're all so stereotyped no matter what. Long hair, we're greasy, we're this, that, we're the other thing. We're still people, we got families, we got kids, there's a humanity involved in what we do. And I don't think that story's been told. When people write a lot of stuff about MCs, they either glorify it, sensationalize it, like Sons of Anarchy, things like that. I think it's a little overdone.
A little?
Yeah. I was being polite. It's highly overdone. It really is. It just because people don't. Is it like Sons of Anarchy? Sons of Anarchy. No. I just no. I don't know how to tell you other than no. So I tried to come from a different perspective of just. I mean, my books are humorous. There's little love stories in them. There's just about people who are drawn to this life, and this is what we do, and this is why we do it.
Now, would you consider your club to be 1%er club?
Yeah.
So you guys were 1%er.
Yeah, especially back in the '80s, we were it.
And how did you designate that?
Put it on. This is us.
So you guys just declared it. You put the diamond on, and there was no problem with the dominant.
There were big problems there. Yeah, absolutely. Like they felt back then. I'm trying to recollect these meetings that we used to have in Josh Randall's barn when we first started. But they felt because that's what they were in every other chapter. Why not? Their logic was, we're just going to stay down here kind of in our area and still in. That's just not where it works. When you're throwing a state rock around there, you're saying it's a state.
Yeah.
There are some clubs that do that, just do the city and the state.
Well, I mean, in this world, you can do whatever you want. It's just there's repercussions.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
basically America. You can do whatever you want, but there's repercussions.
There's a lot more, and unfortunately, that you don't see much of that today. You really can almost throw on any little three-piece you want today and just ride. And just because the feds are so involved in RICO statutes and this and that, and you can't look like a club that controls other clubs anymore. You can't be that king club overtly because, wow, you're acting as in unison. That's number one of a RICO statute. Right
What about the banditos?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been around a long time.
What about the outlaws?
No, they can. But I'm just saying, if you set up a club nowadays, they're less. You see a lot of law enforcement clubs now who never would have gotten away with what they get away with now. There's just no way. You would never see clubs like Iron Order around back then.
Iron Order. Yeah.
Never would have happened.
The bane of clubs. I don't even. They're embarrassing.
I'm embarrassed for them.
I don't consider them a club.
No, I know. I'm embarrassed for them.
I have zero respect for that club.
Totally, absolutely.
It's common knowledge on the Bikers Lifestyle podcast that we're our disdain for them. Well, I've seen them. I've seen them here. The first day I met you, there were a bunch of them here.
About 4 years ago, actually more than about 8 years ago, there was a bunch of them on the highway, and I'm not a speed demon anymore, but I just had to pass. If people don't know, that's considered disrespectful. Fully pass.
Yeah. On the highway, it depends. There's rules, there's protocol. What would you consider to be a 1%er?
Well, I know that you already know the traditional definition of it. I like.
I do. I mean.
You talk about the old AMA where they.
No, I know the history, and a lot of people that watch our show know the history.
I guess I consider it really, it's where because there's nothing wrong with the clubs that would be called them FJC clubs, Family Job Club. Family came first, your job came second, and then your club. The 1% club, it's entirely the other direction. Your club comes first. And I'm going to relay a little story. I'm not going to mention the club or anything like that. But I was at an outing one time, and one of the members of the club, one of their chapter from a different state was there, and I don't know what was wrong with him, but just slapped this guy's girlfriend. Just slapped her. Mm-hmm. I mean, hard. And there's nothing he could do about it. Because that's just, and I felt bad for him because he really wanted to throw down right then and there, but other clubs were there and all this kind of stuff. And after that, I never saw him again. I'm guessing he probably turned in his patch at some point in time. Unfortunately, that was the rules. He had to put his club before her, and I'd imagine that was an interesting conversation when they got home. I don't know what I would do in that situation either. That's
hard to say,
It is hard to say because it's crossing the line. He was obviously all whacked out on something, and he just walked up and just hit her for no reason. Not that he even knew her.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Sounds kind of sketchy, but yeah.
Where, your club comes first. I don't know if I like that. But.
You still have ties to your first club?
Yeah, Actually, I just talked to one of them moved here to Clearwater, and if he's listening, Dave, I had 42 days sober thanks to you. And then I went out with him. As a matter of fact, we ended up here. I still got a video of that. We just, oh yeah, he's down here now. Penny Hotel, he's still alive. He actually travels down to Ponic Water every now and then. Now he's got a boat. He just kind of retired.
Sure.
There's a lot of them passed away now. From what I hear, I talked to a friend of mine, Roger Hickok, who says they're trying to restart that chapter again.
Huh.
He was talking to me the other day, and he showed that they got little business cards now, and they're kind of playing with the idea. So, I don't know. It's hard to strike lightning strike twice. But.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting world at the very least. So you had some differences of opinion with your first club, and you left on good terms.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Were you attracted or recruited by the other club? Was there an interim?
But that's the you need that? Nope. Okay. Sure.
I'm just gonna club brother, but I'll call him back. He's sick. He don't go nowhere anyway. So.
Charlie Max, God rest his soul, and actually recruited me from there. I went to their brother died, and we went to their funeral. And I don't really know what I did, but I talked to a couple of their guys, and he wrote to me. I don't know how. I guess he got my email from where you signed in for the funeral. I don't remember writing your email down, but maybe I did.
Okay. But
he emailed me the next day. He said, "I would want to get to know you better, and we think we like you guys." They wanted to patch over the whole club at one time. And then they came down and just said, "No, we just want you, and we want you to start a different chapter here in Watkins Glen." And so yeah, they did. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but I really did try to get my old club kind of into the 21st century, because as time went on, we were lowering our standards a little bit, and it was becoming more of a financial reason. Well, we got bills to pay, we got people to pay. Bullshit. I don't know. Up your prices at the bar. Not that we sell booze at the bar. It's all donations. Of
course.
Ask your donation request to be higher. Do some more fundraising or something. But don't say, hey, this guy's a fucking moron over here. But he runs an electric shop. He might want to help you this. Not only you're risking something stupid that they're going to do, but you're destroying the purity of it too. I see less and less of that too. I hate dealing with guys. Get off my lawn, and talking about the weather coming in, but it's different times now.
Well, I mean, there's an aging of the motorcyclists that's been going on.
Yes.
I'm part of A-Bait, Wisconsin, and when I first got involved with A-Bait, 15 years ago, they had said at that point in time the average age of motorcyclists was about 40. 15 years ago, and now the average age of your motorcyclist, your standard, Harley cruiser rider, bagger, is 55. And so in 15 years, they haven't gotten any younger. In fact, they keep on getting any older. In another 10 years, there's going to be less and less.
Well, that's what I was just saying earlier about. I just think you're going to see less and less. You're just going to see less and less clubs just because of this generation of people. I hate saying that. It's so old. But it's the generation of people that are coming up. They don't really want to work for anything. They want the benefits, but not the responsibility to go with it. Love that sound.
Well, it's an instantaneous world that they live in nowadays, and
I rambled for 5 minutes and you said it in one sentence. Exactly. That's
and the kids, I don't want to say kids, but a lot of the younger people, they don't want to put the time in.
There you go. Thank you.
And but it's the same anywhere. That the person, they get their first motorcycle, they get a little feel for it, their buddy gets one, now they're riding together, and next thing you know, they're posting on social media that they want to start a club. And you're laughing just like everybody else does, because they don't realize that whole world and what it takes to do it, and especially to start up a new club when there's so many established clubs when you can choose from at this point in time.
And they just don't want it, because I don't want to prospect. I don't want to be that guy setting up tents in the rain and things like that.
But that being said, I go to a lot of, I hang out with a lot of patch holders down here in Florida. I still see a lot of youth coming up through the ranks with a lot of the different clubs.
I've seen a little bit of that more lately, and I don't know whether the recruiting of it has been a little more diligent or what, but I have, but I don't know how well they're going to work out either.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
it may be the job that they're doing really during the prospect, because I had a kid, I used to date this woman whose son is now in the Iron Horseman. I've known him since he was 14.
mm-hmm.
And when he was asked to prospect something, I talked to her and I said, the kid is never going to make it. Not with those guys. He's just never going to do it. But I give them a lot of credit because they really groomed him properly. He's now the national enforcer.
Well, I mean,
he's a good kid, and it wasn't me who raised him. I mean, it had to have been the way they brought him up in the ranks. So.
You know, I've told people before. In fact, Dirty and I've talked about this. You know, we've probably him more than me, but we've talked more people out of joining a club than we have joining a club than we have joining a club.
Yeah.
Because it's not for everybody. The lifestyle is definitely not. It takes a certain amount of conviction. You know, and you know, God, what's the one thing you always hear? Well, I would join a club, but I don't want to be told what to do. You know, I mean, you know, all of those little cliches that we hear over and over again. Well, then, you know, that's good that you understand that about yourself, because evidently it's not for you. You know, so you know that's the whole part about the prospecting phase, right? It's not. I mean, it's everybody to learn about each other. It's the club members to learn about the prospects to learn about the club members, their lives, learn about the club, learn protocol, because you don't want them stepping on his dick for the club when you're out there at events, and you will be at events. And if your club's an established club and you're in an area and you're not the dominant club, well, guess what? You're going to be doing the politics. You're going to be sending people to different club events. Mm-hmm. There's going to be protocol that's involved. So, yeah, I guess maybe that would be a detractor for some of the kids that, you know, they want to add water and stir, and you know, suddenly boom, become a biker. You know, I see a lot of it. I was going to say the mosquitoes have found us now. So, second club now. So how many years were you involved in the first club?
Maybe 18 years.
18 years in the second
and
club?
And then there was about a year lull because I quit that club to go and I just started, because they didn't just instantly throw a patch on me either.
That's good.
Yeah, no. They're a good solid club. They would never do.
Right.
So I hung around them for a long time, and we were going to get that chapter going in Watkins Glen, and what we were talking about earlier, I had a hard time getting that chapter going because you know, I talked to people and we talked to them, and then they answered the question, how long does it take me to get my patch?
As long as it takes.
Well, for you, it's going to be never. Just by asking that question, just you don't you know. How do you explain to people what not to do? You explain to people what to do, but I got to explain to people what they shouldn't do. And then
I'd rather know how many days you're in versus how many days you got left.
Yeah.
Because that's the undetermined factor, right?
Yes. Yeah. I guess if you ask me that like on day one, because that tells me right there, like you said, you just want to add water and move on. And I was not about to make the same mistake my old club did and just start bringing people in just because I wanted to get it up and running. I wanted to get it up and running correctly.
I'd rather have 8 close brothers than 25.
Fuckheads,
yeah, for lack of a better term, fuckheads. You're right. You get a lot of agendas involved that way, and you know, let's face it, life comes at you sometimes, and in the biker world, especially in the club world, it comes at you real quick sometimes.
Yeah.
So now what year did you get out of your second club?
11. I moved down here.
Okay. All right, and then when did you start writing your books?
I started writing the first book. I started writing it probably 2014, and I just tinkered with it, and then went through a bad breakup, and I just kind of got lost in myself, and I just wrote the whole damn thing. I've been writing ever since. Once I get going, I can get going. It took me a while to get started. Writing isn't one of those things you can. I know people say, you just gotta sit down and force yourself to write. Nah, no you don't. You're not feeling it, you're not feeling creative. You can't just sit down and...
I find if I set aside time to write,
Yeah.
I've been trying to, write about my road into the club world and into sobriety. I've been sober now for almost 3 years.
Good for you.
So,
It's a little struggle for me, but I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I love my whiskey.
I loved it too much. That was my problem. And a raging alcoholic would come to mind.
Oh yeah, that's the term I used to use. Well, it still is.
I was
I quit for 12 years at one point in time. So.
1.75 of bourbon every 2 days is what I would go through. And then that's not even top of the beer that I had to drink, of course, with it, because I can't have a beer without bourbon, and I couldn't have a bourbon without beer. And then I couldn't smoke a cigar without either of the two.
Yep.
And so, now I've switched over to non-alcoholic beer at least.
Which one is that?
That's the Bud Zero.
Oh, I know Bud.
Shout out to Bud. Yes, Bud got into the game. I can't drink.
Try to support my old Rochester and try to drink the Jenny Zero, but
the old Genesee. Oh my God. Well, I spent a little time in upstate New York.
Yeah.
I was up in Diamond Point, New York, up in Lake George area.
Oh, way up there in the Adirondacks, huh?
Yeah.
Beautiful part of the state.
It is gorgeous.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
we used to ride up every year up through Alex Bay and Henderson Harbor, and I love that. Route 104 going up Route 3 on the coast.
The Siamese Pond Wilderness area, the Blue Mountains and everything we got up in there.
New York's a fucked up state, but it's a beautiful state to ride your bike in.
Yeah, well, their politics, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's for darn sure. But no, I mean, the whole East, you got to get out of the urban areas, but I mean, New Hampshire, Vermont, upstate New York, Maine, Maine. Western Massachusetts are beautiful, beautiful riding areas.
I used to love to go on Route 6 into Vermont from outside of Albany into along the mountains. Was it 9 or 6? Route 9 maybe? I love that. Beautiful.
It was Route 9. There was Route 100.
I think it was 9. I'm thinking of it. I used to take that.
Yeah, because I lived in Vermont and worked as a chef for a ski mountain for a season.
Oh wow, that's a
yeah, oh yeah, and you see the movies of ski mountains, like they always show like Ski Patrol and these other movies, and it's nearly like that.
Damn.
I gotta say, it really is, aside from some of the shit that they pull in Hollywood to sensationalize things, but it really is that party environment. It was a party every night. And there's snow on the mountain, and let me tell you, there's snow on the mirrors too.
Snow on the nose, right? Yeah,
got snowed in many times. In fact, I knew a one percenter who he was the head of the ski department of the snowmaking department at Stratton Mountain where I work. And this fucking tough motherfucker rode year round. Rode on the mountain. I would see him in the snow using his feet as skis, and it'd be 3-4 inches, and he was tough as nails. I wouldn't mess with the motherfucker. But I'm like, wow, that is one tough motherfucker. And riding a motorcycle year round. So, those guys are out there. He's probably dead by now, for all I know.
Very close to that.
I don't know. He was a pretty good drinker, too. He probably pickled himself,
Yeah, he's pretty long.
Yeah. So now you're writing your books. You got your first one out. When did you publish the first year?
That was in 2019.
2019.
It's about one a year or so.
Okay.
I could put garbage out every 4 months.
Ain't nothing like the internet, I mean, that's regurgitated garbage 24/7, man. So.
Exactly. I mean, I take pride in what I write, how I write. I want it to be good. I want it to reflect what I'm thinking, what I'm doing.
Where can we find your books?
Actually, I got my own website. It's www.dutchvanalstin.com.
Did you self-publish?
Yeah, and I could sign them from there. But they're also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all that. They're distributed everywhere.
Okay. Yeah. So, first book is about, what's the premise?
The main characters, that was more the first book is more of kind of an encapsulation of the whole lifestyle. The first book is about a character named Digger Garcia, he's the all-American boy. He is Iraq veteran, Marine, and raised on a farm. I mean, just all the old stereotypical things that you come up with. He's like the guy everybody wants to be. And each chapter has a synopsis in the front of a little scene in the past. Each chapter starts out 1974, and then the character's name, and then a little quick blurb about what happened. And as you see throughout the book, Digger's life wasn't quite as starry-eyed as you think. And it turns out his father murdered his mother, and he had a lot of demons inside him. And
as we all do.
As we all do, absolutely. And then he moves down to Tampa. He meets a character named Solomon Stark. He's an old Vietnam veteran. And it's a very, that relationship, the reader gets to see how much that grows and develops. And I had tougher men than me say, you know, don't tell them I'm fine. Five in a row. It's a very touching story about brotherhood, fellowship. And then each book mentions the next book's title. Like the main character, the second book, Rebellious Youth, is John Elfman. And Digger mentions him in the first book because they don't like each other. But that's it, just one quick word. And then the next book starts out with the two of them fighting over the same girl. You know, Digger's girlfriend he broke up with, Elf took her up, and they had a little scrap in the beginning. And then he's out of the book after that. But Elf is a whole different character. He's kind of a psychotic type. You really can't figure him out. Each chapter starts out with him either at a confessional booth with a priest, or the next one is he's in a psychiatrist's office. Each chapter goes down. And that
biker needs a psychiatrist?
Well, you'll see why. You'll see why, though. That's interesting you say that, because there's a reason why. And it also goes back to when he was a kid. You know, you see it back in a psychiatrist when he was 4 years old, or 5 years old. And when he's in prison, he's seeing a psychiatrist. So there's always a reason why. He's on his medications. There's one scene where he says, why do you keep coming here if you're not going to ever listen to me? Give me my medications. You know, so it really has nothing to do with... I know that I'll say, you never see a motorcycle in front of a psychiatrist. This guy's...
Actually, I've got that on a sign outside my garage in my house up north.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think we all do. That's true. That's true.
That's why I mentioned that. So now let's transition to the third book. Now it's about a comedian, right?
Yeah, it's about a man who almost quite made. And I know everybody thinks it's about Lee. And I don't know
no, he just used him as a model.
I just used him. He actually wanted to be the model for the second one. I said, Lee, the second guy's from the Everglades. I need a long beard, long hair, and just basically you're too handsome for that. You're too pretty for that. Can't have you for that character. And then he asked about the third one. I said, the third one you'd be perfect for. You remind me of that, what I had in mind. Yeah, that's about a guy who almost made it into Hollywood. There's a comedian and an actor, and he got a little trouble with cocaine and got arrested, and just basically got blacklisted from Hollywood. And then he transitioned into, he was out one night and overheard a bunch of bikers coming from her funeral, talking about the brother, and he kind of idealistically fell in love with the whole concept of motorcycles. So he bought a bike, rode around the country, and lands in Okeechobee, Florida, meets a man named Ghost, and morphs into that kind of world.
Right on, man. Well, I can see I'm getting close down on my battery here. But, I mean, I haven't read the books yet. I haven't had a chance to purchase them and to do all of them.
I got one for you. I meant to bring my bag with me, but I could give you the first one while I was here.
Sure, I'm a voracious reader. I definitely will. I'll definitely read it, and you know, there's been I read a lot. I read a lot of a lot of the good biker books that are out there. You know, there's some great autobiographies that you can find. And
lots, but there's a lot of those too. And I don't think my life is, I'm really much sure about me specifically. I think there's a lot of high-profile people from Sonny Barger, I know, wrote a lot of them, things like that.
He's got some fiction though. Dead in 5 Heartbeats. That was very entertaining.
That, yeah. Actually, my favorite one he does is the little Credos of the Road, Freedom. 50 Credos of the Road. That's excellent. I used to have the prospect read that. That was part of the whole process. But you read it and understand it. No, you're not going to do a book apart, but you're going to read it and understand it.
Yeah, the one I wish had a chance to write some of his stuff down, but was Taco Bowman. I mean, there's a guy that I really would have liked to learn more about, but I mean, he died.
2 years ago, right?
Yep. Sadly.
Yeah.
Peggy's a busy place, man. All the time. Yeah. Yeah. So what's next then on the frontier for Dutch with
Well, actually, we're going to do, Abby mentioned Peggy's, we're going to shoot the cover picture in front of Peggy's here for the Righteous, or the Righteous Ravens book. We're going to be doing that real soon. That one should be published in my hands. First, it says summer on my website, but that's not going to happen. That's going to probably be more towards the fall. Still tweaking that a little bit. I got a couple of beta readers that are reading it, giving some feedback. Some good, some bad. Cool. Tweaking it a little bit here and there. Big supporter of mine. You own that bar. You own the Ride Hard Saloon. And had a stroke last 20 and 21. Died. But it was just the most authentic bar I've ever been. We used to shoot the friggin' guns out back and right near the walls, and they would smoke weed out on the back porch. It was like it was nothing. Had no air conditioner. It was like he prided himself on that. They put up every day. 512 days with no air conditioners.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was a great bar. That was a great. I got a lot of videos of that place.
Well, we're sitting here at Peggy's in what they call the airport.
They call this the airport?
They call it the airport because everybody gets high out here.
And I'm glad they let them do that. They should. Because there's a couple bars that don't. They're like, I don't want to get in trouble with that. I'll lose my license. And
so you going to dedicate it for me, are you?
oh, absolutely.
Right on, man. Take from the Biker's Lifestyle podcast.
Biker's Life?
Yeah, the Biker's Lifestyle podcast.
I'm trying to be a grammar Nazi here. When I put an apostrophe as ownership, there's just bikers added.
No apostrophe. We really don't care.
I'm one of those weirdos that do that.
Well, I mean, you're talking to a guy that won't split the infinitive in a text. So, you know, I mean...
I try not to do that either.
You know, it's... But that's just me. That's just, you know, because I want to make sure how I present myself.
Yep, I don't need to always do that.
You know, but, I mean, I tell you what, if you ever want to think you're, you know, feel real smart, just go on Facebook and read people's posts.
Oh, my God.
Because it's, you know, I don't want to be a grammar Nazi, and I certainly don't want to be spell check Nazi, but, boy, I mean, they make it so easy.
Some are really good. Some I have to be nice, but I don't even understand what they're saying.
You know, I had a former club brother of ours, mine and Dirty's. He would send out these texts, you know, mass texts, and I'd like shoot back. I'm like, was that English? You know, because it was just so, it was so terrible. I love you, Brother Beaker, I really do, but damn, your texts were terrible. And when it would be a nice one, oh, thank you very much.
Entirely welcome.
And when it would be a good text, and it was spelled correctly, I'm like, all right, your wife wrote that, didn't she? But no, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, man.
I meant to give it to you last time I saw you.
Yeah, that's all right, though.
My memory's a little shot.
I mean, well, do you have any words of wisdom for anybody here on the Biker's Lifestyle podcast?
Words of wisdom.
We always ask for words of wisdom. I was going to get you on that one anyway, so.
Well, I signed in the book, stand tall, ride free, never look back.
Is that what it says? Right on. Right on, man. We got a little phrase on the Biker's Lifestyle, and it's remember, the most dangerous part in your motorcycle is the nut that connects the seat to the handlebars.
Yes, it does. You're damn right.
You know, and we didn't make it up. You know, I read it years ago, but we kind of used it to sign off for years because it is the truth.
It is. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Nut that connects the seat handle, that is so true. Oh.
Well, Dutch, it's been great sitting down here with you today, man, talking. Thank you very much for the book. I'm going to read it. I'll probably start it when I get home.
Love to know what you think.
But we'll definitely stay in touch. I'm sure I'll see you at the WCFR stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'll probably try to make one more bike night before I head up north. But I'm counting the days before I do my 1,385 mile trek.
Well, you got a very bright brain type mind. I think you're going to like chapter 5. That's a conversation between Digger and Solomon at Bonfire. It's my favorite chapter of the book. Okay?
Oh, nice. I like the paint job on that bike.
There's a lot of music. But...
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, you know, I mean, I got a club brother, though. I'll never forget it. Brother Dirty. He's riding another club brother's bike. He takes it off. His was down. you know, blew up the motor, so he was in the middle of building it back up again. He really wanted to ride, so he took another Club Brothers bike out, and oh, thank you very much. And he comes back into the front of the clubhouse playing Justin Bieber. I'm like, fucking perfect, man. Like rolling with the Biebs, man.